There is a particular kind of restlessness that doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't crash into your life as a crisis. It doesn't destroy things right away. It doesn't even look dramatic. It shows up quietly. You wake up one morning and nothing is wrong, but nothing feels right either. Your life looks stable from the outside. You are functioning. You are doing what you are supposed to do. You might even be doing well. And yet, underneath all of it, there is a low, persistent tension. A subtle dissatisfaction you can't explain without sounding ungrateful. You try to label it. You call it stress. You call it boredom. You call it anxiety. You call it burnout. But none of those words quite fit. Because this restlessness doesn't come from overload. It comes from misalignment. And that is the part most people miss. The soul rarely wakes you gently. It doesn't send polite notifications. It doesn't wait until it is convenient. It interrupts. Not with chaos at first, but with discomfort. A quiet, nagging sense that something essential is being ignored. You feel unsettled, but you can't point to a single external cause. You feel restless, but there is nothing obvious to escape from. And so you do what most people do. You assume the problem must be outside of you. You look for a change of scenery. A new goal. A new relationship. A new routine. A new distraction. But the restlessness follows you. Because it was never about what you were doing. It was about what you were no longer listening to. Before awakening, the soul often speaks through unease. Not because it wants to punish you, but because it wants your attention. And discomfort is the only language that breaks through habit. One of the strangest things about this kind of restlessness is when it appears. It rarely shows up during survival mode. When you are struggling just to get by, your nervous system is too busy managing danger to question meaning. But once things stabilize, once your basic needs are met, something else begins to surface. You are no longer running. So you start noticing. And that is when the questions arrive. Why doesn't this feel like enough anymore? Why does success feel oddly flat? Why am I restless when I finally have what I wanted? This is where guilt creeps in. You tell yourself you have no right to feel this way. Other people would be grateful. Other people would be happy with this life. So you suppress the feeling. But suppression does not dissolve restlessness. It intensifies it. Because the soul does not respond to gratitude lists. It responds to truth. Comfort can be more disorienting than struggle. Struggle gives you direction. Comfort removes urgency. And in that silence, the deeper questions finally have room to speak. What am I actually doing here? Who am I becoming? Is this path aligned with who I really am, or just who I learned to be? The soul resists stagnation, even pleasant stagnation. When growth stops, restlessness begins. Not because something is wrong with you, but because something is ready to move. This is why awakening so often starts when life looks fine. Because fine is not fulfillment. And the soul knows the difference long before the mind does. At the core of this restlessness is a quiet internal conflict. A tension between the identity you have constructed and the truth that is beginning to surface underneath it. Your identity is not who you are. It is who you learn to be. It is shaped by expectations, roles, rewards, and survival strategies. You learned what got approval. You learned what kept you safe. You learned which parts of yourself were acceptable. And for a long time, that identity worked. It helped you navigate the world. It gave you structure. It gave you a sense of self. But identities are not meant to last forever. They are meant to evolve. Awakening begins when the role starts to feel tight. You still perform it well, but it no longer feels honest. Your motivation fades. Your enthusiasm weakens. The things that once drove you now feel strangely hollow. This is not laziness. It is misalignment. You are no longer energized by a version of yourself that is becoming outdated. And the mind reacts with confusion. Why can't I push myself like before? Why do I feel disconnected from things that used to matter? Why does everything feel slightly off? Because something inside you is shedding. And shedding is uncomfortable. You don't feel lost. You feel misaligned. You are not failing. You are outgrowing. And that process does not feel peaceful at first. It feels destabilizing. Because certainty dissolves before clarity forms. One of the most misunderstood aspects of pre-awakening restlessness is how physical it feels. You might notice changes in your energy, your sleep, your sensitivity. You feel agitated without knowing why. Tired without being exhausted. Alert without being anxious. This confuses the mind. You go looking for a diagnosis, a label, a cause. But often, nothing is medically wrong. Because this is not pathology. It is sensitivity. Awareness shifts affect the nervous system before they become coherent thoughts. Your body is designed to detect changes long before your beliefs update. So it responds first. The body begins releasing old tension patterns, old coping mechanisms, old emotional holding. And that release feels unfamiliar. Sometimes uncomfortable. Sometimes unsettling. Your system is recalibrating. That does not always feel good. But it is intelligent. The body is not malfunctioning. It is adjusting to a new internal environment. You are becoming more aware. And awareness increases sensitivity before it brings peace. Your body knows before your mind catches up. If you try to numb this stage, you delay the integration. If you listen, you move through it. The question is not how to make it stop. The question is what it is asking you to notice. Another hallmark of this stage is the strange fading of desire. Things that once motivated you no longer have the same pull. Goals feel mechanical. Achievements feel anticlimactic. Rewards feel muted. This can be frightening. You wonder if you have lost your drive, your ambition, your passion. But what you are losing is not desire. You are losing attachment. Desire is often tied to identity. It is fueled by wanting to become something, prove something, or escape something. As awakening begins, those identity-based motivations weaken. Not because you are becoming passive, but because the chase is no longer convincing. What no longer excites you isn't gone. It's complete. Your system is recalibrating its reward structure. And that empty feeling in between is not a void. It is a pause. A reorientation. You are being asked to question what you want before you continue wanting. This phase feels unproductive because productivity is no longer the metric. Presence is. And presence cannot be rushed. As this inner shift unfolds, relationships often feel different. Conversations feel shallower. Social roles feel performative. You feel present, but not fully engaged. This can be painful. You may feel misunderstood without being able to explain why. You may crave solitude, even as you fear isolation. This is not because you are becoming disconnected. It is because your attention is turning inward. There is a difference between loneliness and aloneness. Loneliness is the pain of resisting where you are. Aloneness is the experience of being with yourself without distraction. Before awakening, many people are never truly alone. They are constantly mirrored, validated, distracted, or regulated by others. When that stops working, loneliness appears first. But loneliness is transitional. It is the doorway, not the destination. You are not drifting away. You are turning inward. And inward journeys require space. This does not mean you are rejecting love. It means you are reorganizing your relationship to it. One of the most important things to understand about this stage is that it is not permanent. Restlessness is not awakening. It is what comes before. It is the shaking of the structure before the clarity settles in. Old certainties collapse first. New understanding arrives later. And the space in between feels unstable. This is where many people panic. They rush to fix the feeling instead of listening to it. They jump into distractions. They force decisions. They cling to old identities out of fear. But awakening is not something you can rush. It unfolds. And restlessness is the signal that the unfolding has begun. Clarity does not arrive while everything stays intact. Something has to loosen first. That loosening feels uncomfortable. But it is not wrong. It is necessary. Eventually, speed stabilizes. Direction solidifies. And the fast mind looks for connection again. But differently. It no longer seeks rescue. It seeks resonance. Standards rise, not out of arrogance, but clarity. Entry becomes slower. Commitment becomes deeper. Connection is no longer an anchor. It is amplification. Fast minds don't rush into love. They recognize it. Because now, they know their pace. And they know what it would take to share it. The single mind moves faster not because it avoids connection, but because it knows exactly where it's going. Singleness is not an identity. It is a phase of unshared motion. A season where clarity outruns comfort. If you are here, you are not behind. You are simply moving without friction. And when the time comes to slow down, you will do so deliberately. Not because you were forced, but because you chose to share the pace. That is the difference. And that difference changes everything. At this stage, the most important thing is not action. It is attention. You do not need to change your life immediately. You do not need to make drastic moves. You do not need to label yourself or commit to a new identity. You need to listen. To the unease. To the questions. To the quiet pull beneath the noise. Stop trying to numb it. Stop trying to outrun it. Stop trying to explain it away. Restlessness is communication. Not malfunction. The soul becomes restless not because it is lost, but because it is ready to remember. And remembrance always begins with discomfort. Because truth rearranges what you thought you were.